Hello, listeners and viewers of the Pickup Truck Plus SUV podcast and video podcast, Vodcast, we're going with, Vcast. It's your host, Tim Esterdahl. Sorry, that's a little awkward. We're doing something new for the new year. I'm joined, obviously, once again, by the fabulous Jill Ciminillo out of Chicago. I should mention that before we get too far along, but typically the show has been a podcast, and we can find the audio on iTunes, and you can download the podcast there and past episodes. But this year, it occurred to me that lots of people like to watch YouTube. And so they watch it religiously, more than I do. And I thought, we're recording the audio anyway, so why not record the video? They can see how fabulous and charming we look in real person in life. And they can see the funny looks that Jill gives me when we talk about the podcast that she, throws out to me. So we're going to try this for a while. Love to get some feedback. Tim at pickuptrucktalk.com. You can find us on YouTube below. You can comment below on YouTube. You can comment on iTunes. You can comment on Facebook and Twitter, and we're all out there, Pickup Truck Talk. So there it is. That is the big rollout. That's what I got.
Okay.
Are you
we're
fired
still
up?
done. We're moving on now.
Okay. End credits. End credits. No, but so what we're going to do this show is going to be a little bit different too. I'm going to skip all the news. There was some news about some Ford issues coming out. We're skipping all that. We're talking specifically about NIAS, as we call it in the business, North American International Auto Show. People also know as Detroit Auto Show. It I don't know if you could say it kicks off the auto show year, if LA does. I don't really care, but it's the big auto show. It's in freezing ass cold Detroit, which Jill is going to wear 17 layers to make it to the show and not get blown over by the wind and the Detroit River. I will be watching from the comfort of my house, which I do have to give a shout out to, I spent a lot of time this last couple of days. I was in Mississippi with Nissan doing some duck hunting. TFL, the Fast Lane truck, with Roman and Micah, they're going to do a live video of all the reveals. So there you go. If you want to sit here and not go through and click through all the different manufacturer feeds, you can go there, or you can go to Pickup Truck Talk on our Facebook, and I'm going to be sharing all the videos that Jill will be taking as she's wandering around the show floor.
I don't know. So I'm going to be doing something a little bit different this year. I'm working with one of our local TV stations.
Oh, really?
So NBC affiliate station out of Flint, Michigan. And I'm going to be doing live hits. And we're actually going to be producing a half-hour auto show this year, or auto show special. So I may miss some of the press conferences in the morning because I'll be working with our team, but I'll probably try and do some walkarounds and some stuff like that later in the afternoon that can be shared. But if anybody out there lives in Flint, Michigan, be sure to tune in starting at 5 a.m.
So, Jill, how many cups of coffee for you is that at 5 a.m.?
That's like it's barely 1 at 5 a.m. Because you get onto the show floor and we actually have permission to enter before everything opens. So we'll be like the only ones on the floor, which means there is no coffee yet.
Oh, yes. That's very important. Note that. Yeah. So no, that's going to be, wow. Yeah. Is there like 15-hour energy? Is that a thing? You just keep popping them?
My husband actually has some of that interesting gel that's purely caffeinated. It tastes like soda. Yeah, I may be taking a bottle of that with me.
So there you go for viewers. If you don't notice, we digress at various times. It's just part of the charm of the show. But yeah, let's hop into it before they hit the stop button. So I'm going to talk about trucks. You can talk about SUVs. And we'll talk a little bit back and forth. So the big news for me on this show is it's a very truck show. We have a couple big truck reveals. We're going to learn a lot more about the Chevy Silverado. This was what was unveiled. We were both in Texas to see this come out of a helicopter. I would say there's probably 5 things you need to know about the new Silverado we're going to probably see. Number one, they're going to talk about the frame. I'm going to guess, I think it's a very solid guess, that the frame is going to be redone to be more advanced high-strength steel throughout the frame, and it's going to drop weight. I'm assuming they're going to add a little more aluminum through the body. What this is going to allow them to do is the same thing it allowed them to do on the Ford Super Duty lineup trucks, is that they'll be able to fine-tune the suspension now. Because when you do the more high-strength steel, you're going to have less flexibility on the frame, and you're able to tune that suspension more to handle the articulation in the wheels. So you probably see a better ride quality of next generation Silverado because of that new high-strength steel. There's some talk about new powertrains, and a couple of sites I looked at and I've been doing some research on there was discussion about doing a diesel. To me it's coming. To me it's a no-brainer, but I don't see that Chevy would do it at this show. I think they would hold that off and do it as its own thing to keep the media involved and keep the media news cycle going. But I would not rule that out because the Equinox, I believe, or the Traverse, I think it's Equinox actually getting a diesel. And so they're starting to institute them in the lineup. The Cruise has had one for a long time. It's going to happen, folks. It's going to happen. They're going to have a diesel. I would not say it's here. I would say that they may do a turbocharged V6. I could see them doing some things in that realm. I don't know that they'll do. They'll have I think the Ecotec 3 is what they're calling their V8 engine. They'll probably upgrade that a little bit, but I wouldn't expect a whole lot of that. So you're gonna have weight savings. You're gonna probably new powertrain news. With the weight savings, you probably get an increase in mile per gallon. So some of the aerodynamics, if you looked at the outer of that truck, there's some probably aerodynamic things going on there. Weight savings, so you're probably gonna get 1 or 2 miles per gallon better. I would guess in the highway, probably a little bit less than that in the city. And then inside the cab, there's gonna be a slew of interior upgrades. You could just see it. There's gonna be probably new IP. There's gonna be new technology, probably bigger infotainment screen. I don't see a whole lot else beyond that. That's kind of a typical ballpark stuff for trucks. I mean, every new truck has those things.
Yeah, well, and I know that a lot of people have been kind of hoping that maybe they will also introduce like a Ranger counterpart or competitor.
Oh, Raptor, yeah.
Raptor. Yeah.
So that was a conversation, again, Roman Mike, I'm going to throw his name out again. We were having quite a bit. It's interesting. Nobody has challenged the Raptor at all, and nobody really has done it. And I don't know that there's enough space in that stock off-road at that price point to compete. I don't know that there's enough room in that marketplace. It was very interesting, though, that Chevy showed off the Trail Boss Edition in Texas. A very interesting play there. It seems like they're cognizant of people buying trucks for off-road purposes. They've learned that with the ZR2. The ZR2. This is not a Honda thing. The ZR2. They learned that people really want an off-road capable truck, and that's the Colorado ZR2. The leading off of that seems like it got a lot of attention. I don't see them doing that in Detroit. I don't think that that's a big enough marketplace for that. I think you got to go all in. I just got done driving a Titan Pro 4X in that, and we had the same conversation. You got to go all in. You can't do this just a stickers package, which is the Z71 was for a long time. And so I'm hopeful that they're going to do more of an off-road package. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's where they need to be, but I don't see it at this point. So, but who knows? It's Detroit. I could be wrong.
It is Detroit.
And if I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll get comments. All right, so the
and by the way, Saturday is the day.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
is the day to know what they're going to be launching because they're doing their program offsite at 6:30 Eastern time tomorrow night.
Yeah, I should make a note of that. The show is actually open to public the 20th through the 28th in Cobo Center down in Detroit because I wrote all this down. The media days are actually supposed to be.
Supposed to be
the 15th and 16th. However, that show has changed dramatically in the last couple of years, and everybody's doing stuff off-site because what happens in Cobo is you can't make it to all the press conferences because it's just a zoo of people, and so it's like a whole mass of people going to press conference. They're doing off-site stuff. So
20 minutes.
Yeah, so so everybody's doing off-site stuff. So Chevy's doing theirs tomorrow evening. They're going to do all their Silverado, and I guess I'll go back to one thing is that we're going to hear a lot about towing. We'll hear a lot about horsepower, torque, frame, weight. We'll have some theories on mile per gallon. Typically, mile per gallon is not released at that time. It's usually going for EPA cycles and things. It's usually a couple months later. And pricing. Pricing is typically always released a couple of months later. So you'll be able to hear about it. You'll be able to go see it at Cobo if you're in the area. But some of the finer point details you won't quite get at. Speaking of Saturday, I believe Sunday is the Ram. I believe no, is it?
Sunday is Ford, and I think Volkswagen might have something on Sunday. But Ford has their press conference, and Mercedes has an offsite press conference.
Yeah, so let's get the Ford next. They're on my list. If you didn't check the news this week, and I will have some stories up on the website soon. The Ford announced their diesel, the 3-liter Power Stroke diesel for the F-150. This was like we knew this was coming. I mean, Rams beating up EcoDiesel. You knew this was coming out. A few interesting stats from this. They're saying 30 mile per gallon, which is, like I said, it's odd to say that at a launch, but they need to best Ram, and Ram's best EcoDiesel is 29. So this is that game of one-upmanship. I'm going to beat you. The 250 horsepower, 440 pound-feet of torque. It's close to 11,400 pounds. Guaranteed it's going to have the 10-speed auto. Those numbers make it best in class, I'm sure, different things, but it's a very competitive engine to the EcoDiesel, I would argue. It's spring 2018 will be available on dealer lots. We do know that as well. Pricing was not released, but I can tell you my sense of it is it'll be $3,000 over the EcoBoost and the 5-liter V8, but it's going to be $6,000 over the stock V6 engine, which most consumers don't know. The stock base is a V6. It's just a straight natural aspirated V6. They do that because they're kind of sucker you in the EcoBoost, and they take so it's a whole thing.
The EcoBoost, by the way, is really awesome.
It is. Okay, I'm going to talk about this for a little bit. Little tangent here. We digress but we're staying on task with Ford. I was in Mississippi, like I said, doing some duck hunting, and we were talking to the guides down there, and they said that everybody who has an EcoBoost down there sold it or got rid of it or took it to a junkyard. What they found is that the mud in the area and the dirt in the air was plugging up the turbos dramatically. And the turbos, I did a story years ago on this. I think each turbo was like $4,000 to have it replaced.
Ooh.
It's a twin turbo EcoBoost. So I hadn't heard that before. Roman said he had heard it before. Bringing up my friend Roman Michael again. And it was very interesting to get their point of view. And one of the guys had an F-150 there and an F-250, and straight, no turbos, 5-liter V8. And it's a little fascinating here to think about this from a larger scale of things. Ford's been pushing EcoBoost for many years. It's been like the banner, the EcoBoost banner, and there's been a lot of controversy about it. A lot of people love it, or they can't get the fuel economy out of it, or there's a lot of discussion about it. I like driving it because it's quick. It's a twin turbo. It's quick off the line. It's fun.
It's smooth.
Right. It's a fun driving truck, and but there's been some concern over that. But Ford's put a press release saying that they're nearing 50% of F-150 sold are EcoBoost. And with the 2.7 and the 3.5 they've had for a long time, the 2.7 is a newer, smaller 4-cylinder EcoBoost. They've expanded the EcoBoost, right? So they've offering more offerings than this. And now they're going to bring a diesel in. And the question is, does the diesel compete with the EcoBoost or the 5-liter? And I think it's an interesting question. So Ford is really... So the question would be, is Ford going to sell more trucks, right? So they have with the power stroke goes, or is that diesel going to cannibalize sales of existing engines? Is somebody going to say, I'm going to buy a Ford F-150 anyways, but instead of buying the EcoBoost, I'm going to buy the power stroke now?
Yeah, and I mean, from what you said, I would say that the diesel will compete with the base engine. Because the EcoBoost, to me, that seems like that's a perfect engine for the city, like Chicago.
Yeah.
And, there aren't too many people who are going to buy diesels necessarily in the city of Chicago or, in a city. So I would think that, if anything, the diesel would compete with its base engine rather than the EcoBoost, and especially considering the fact that, I think we need to have like, what would Roman Micah say? That's going to be like our theme for the show. But especially considering conversations you and Roman had about, the dirt and the turbo and all that. But,
so when you're in a duck blind for like 5 hours, and we drove from the airport to the event, we drove back from the airport to the, from the event to the airport. So yes, we had an ample amount of time, and we were discussing trucks quite a bit. Yes.
What would Roman say about that?
I did see a quote on Fox News had a quote on this that talked with one of their Ford marketing people that said that they expect the EcoDiesel to comprise 5%, or an EcoDiesel. God, I always want to say EcoDiesel. The Power Stroke to represent 5% of all their engine sales of the F-150, which I thought was an incredibly low number. I remember when Ram, I'm going to slip the Ram here in EcoDiesel. When Ram talked about EcoDiesel, they were thinking like 10%. And it was like, it's been and holding steady for years now. 1 in every 5 Ram trucks built, heavy duty and light duty, is an EcoDiesel. And they sold 80,000 trucks last year. No, they sold more than that. But so they have a lot of diesels being sold. So I do wonder about that 5%. I do wonder what's going to happen with engine. What people are going to buy.
Well, and they're probably being conservative for launch.
Yeah, and that's most places are very conservative when they launch a product. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting engine. I'm excited to eventually drive it. I don't get a whole lot of access to Ford product, but I will eventually drive it. And I am hopeful it gets 10 speed because I think that's the additional mile per gallon with a lighter weight and aluminum of it. And it's probably going to be a great product. I mean, Ford is if Ford is anything, they are a great truck manufacturer. Mm-hmm. If they are anything, they're a great truck manufacturer. So I've high hopes for that one. So speaking of, we've alluded to this many times. We talked to Ram quite a bit. Ram's going to be there too, and they're making big news. They made big news yesterday. They're investing $2 billion in the Warren Truck Facility to move the heavy-duty production from Mexico to the U.S. Ford did the same thing a couple years ago with the heavy duties, their Super Duties from Mexico. So it's a continuing thing. I mean, they keep trying to move product back to the U.S. $2 billion is a lot of money, and 2,500 new jobs in Michigan. Plus, they're going to get out $2,000 and a bonus from the tax reform. So if you're a Ram employee, you are going to have a good spring. And and go Michigan. You're going to get a lot more jobs back in Michigan, which is a place that's been hard hit over the last decade or so. So very exciting for them. Very exciting news. And then they're launching a new light duty. What's interesting with Ram is this truck is going to replace one of the oldest trucks in the marketplace. And the oldest truck in the marketplace, that old.
Still doing really well.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's like oh my gosh, Ram has always been the scrappy kind of third player out there in the wind, and I'm really excited for Ram in this product because I think they came close. Well, actually, they took over from Silverado last year. They took like once or twice in sales. They beat them on a monthly basis, and you add this energy behind the product. You add this investment going into Michigan. You add it's a lot going on. I think they can really become a true second player. So the new Ram truck has a new grille, which I have to little tangent. I was reading something somebody wrote on this, and they talked about the new grille on the Ram, and they said I really like the Kylo Ren look, which is the face mask of a Star Wars character. So I don't know if that was funny. So it's the new grille, new exterior. Ryan Nagodi, the interior designer for Ram trucks, is going to knock the interior out of the park. He does an amazing job. I would expect new tech. There's always new tech in these trucks. There's always new. I don't think there's gonna be new features. They're not doing backup trailer assist. I don't think they can do that kind of stuff. But they'll have more apps on their infotainment screen. The Uconnect, which is already a fantastic system. And then I wrote an article on Pickup Truck Talk about what you can expect. I don't see changes to the Hemi. I do not see changes to the EcoDiesel. I do see some improvements with the Pentastar V6. I think there's some improvements they can do with that engine. If consumers aren't interested in buying the Hemi, which why wouldn't you buy the Hemi or the EcoDiesel? Right. So yeah, I don't. There's been different patents put out for different tailgates. Like they have a dual open tailgate, a tailgate closes open. A lot of patents. I don't see that coming to marketplace. I think it's just patents out there. I see a very solid truck, another evolutionary truck in the process. And I think you're not going to have a whole lot of the special trims right away. They'll do what they did last time. They'll save the harvest editions and things and do the special trims as the truck rolls out. But you have a new base truck, which I'm really excited to see what they do with that. I've really been happy and pleased with the Ram products I've driven, and I think that this is going to be a next great evolution of process.
Yeah, and that'll be like the second press conference on Monday. So by about 9 a.m. Eastern time, the information about Ram will be out in the marketplace.
Yeah. We'll be posting on our social media and our website. I'll be sitting here doing that stuff. And I want to throw I'm going to throw 2 concepts I think could be there, and then I'm going to throw it to you. You have some SUV news. Right. I think Ford is going to talk about the Ranger. I think they're going to do, because they already talked about the diesel. So they already put diesel out there, and I think the Ranger is going to come up next. I think there's a lot of energy around the Ranger, a lot of discussion of what's going to be. Frankly, Ford screwed up. They did not think that the midsize truck market was going to grow, and I don't blame them. At that time, when they pulled the Ranger out, it looked like a dead marketplace, and boys, it boomed. So that I think we'll hear some news from Ford Ranger. I have a sneaky suspicion that we're going to see a concept from Jeep Wrangler pickup. They call it the JP right now. It's just Jeep pickup. It's coming. I wouldn't be surprised if Jeep doesn't like throw a concept out there. It won't be the final concept because they have an SUV, which Joe's going to talk about in a minute. But I could see them rolling that out because if there's one thing I know about FCA, the Jeep and Ram and Dodge, is that they love to one-up Ford. And so Ford brings up their Ranger, right? You can tell those Jeep guys can be like, hey, check it out over here. I mean, because there's nothing they like more than that. So I could see it just being it could be a picture. It could just be a sketch. It could be something, but I could see something going on. So I think it's going to be a fun show. I'm a little jealous I'm not going to be there, but it's really cold, and I got goose to shoot, and I got things going on. So, but speaking of...
That's from the guy who says, all you have to do is add more layers.
Yeah, it still makes it cold.
Whatever.
You have to add more layers. I'm going to be fine. I got a space heater in here. It's great. All right, so speaking of somebody freezing their butt off in the Detroit area and getting up super early, you have SUV news. So what do you have going on?
Well, so back to Ford for a second. They announced officially today that they're going to have an ST version of the Edge. So I don't know if they're going to be like doing an official press conference in Detroit or if it'll just be on display. But they did mention that they are going to have the ST version of the Edge. So I'm just kind of glancing at the press release right now that went out. 2019 model, ST tuned sport suspension, sport mode, 8-speed transmission, standard all-wheel drive, and the most powerful V6 engine in its class.
Yes, because we all care about V6 power efficiency in an SUV.
Yeah. But so I don't know if they're going to be featuring that also at during the press conference, but it will certainly be on display. I know that they did a little backgrounder in Detroit a couple weeks ago, and this was one of the vehicles that they featured, and the embargo was today. So that's coming. Back to Jeep also, they will be doing a refreshed version of the Cherokee. And so I'm like trying to think of how that press conference will work. If they're going to be doing, a refreshed version of the Cherokee, and then how they might sneak, pickup truck pictures or whatever in.
But it kind of gets you thinking, doesn't it? Because a refreshed Jeep Cherokee isn't big news. Like, it's been out for a week now, and I just haven't really written it up because it's not that huge of a news. But if you like bring that out and bring another one out, and automakers do this. Ford a couple years ago did the GT, and then they did a new Raptor. I mean, they snuck stuff in. I mean, it does happen.
It does, and I think there's going to be some car news also for Ford, by the way. But since we don't talk about car stuff, we won't mention, that. But I know that the press program for Cherokee is like the week after Detroit. So the week of January 22nd, they're already taking media out to drive it. So, but yeah, and it's the only OEM press conference on Tuesday, and it's the first one. So at 8 a.m., they're having this press conference.
Yeah, and for those who don't know how the media works on that, is that Tuesday is typically your get out of town day. And so they don't do there's not a whole lot of news going on today. So, they could just do the Cherokee, then call it good. They could try to make bigger news because on that Tuesday as well, there's not a lot of other news going on. And so it's an interesting game. I'm like I said, I'm a hopeful. This is another vehicle we were talking about. Is that it's going to be the question that we came up with was, does the mid-sized truck market, is it big enough for all these vehicles? And then somebody said, wait, that Jeep Wrangler pickup can't be considered in the same marketplace as the mid-sized trucks. It's like its own thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, all right, I guess I could buy that. Like it's like a FJ kind of own thing and Wrangler own thing. It's kind of its own individualized product, and they don't think it directly competes.
Well, here's the buzzword of the year. It fills white space.
Oh, yes.
I'm so sick of hearing about white space.
Yeah, you're like, paint it, damn it. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's interesting. I've talked to people that really like the idea, but it's to me it's a Wrangler with a bed. I mean, that's what it's going to be. But it could be a really really capable truck. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
But so the Jeep press conference is 8 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, but I mean, just some other SUV news going on. BMW is supposed to be revealing their X2, and then, I think the bigger news is Acura. They are doing their redesigned RDX.
Yes,
and there's supposed to be some huge technology features and updates, interior stuff going on with that I think will be pretty cool. Acura's been doing a lot of interesting things with technology. Like, what was it, last year they had the precision cockpit concept.
Yeah.
Have a car. They just had a shell of an interior where you could like sit in the interior and like press the buttons. And so I wouldn't be surprised if some of what that precision cockpit concept was might make its way into the RDX production vehicle, and I mean visually it was really cool, and frankly Acura could use a little boost on their interiors. So
yeah, I'm just gonna say that it seems like to me, and I don't do a lot with Acura, but it seems like they could do a lot to stand out anyways across the marketplace. We're doing a review right now for Truck Trend on one of their vehicles, and it's like it just doesn't stand out as much as the competitors do.
Well, and the tough thing about Acura is I feel like they've got a little bit of an identity crisis going on at the moment because Honda has become so great.
Yeah.
And so you have Honda, which is really, they've stepped up their game in terms of exterior design, interior design, ride and handling. And then you have Acura, which was supposed to, be really pretty and, have all these great things. Like, Honda was supposed to be the economy version of Acura, and Acura, they just kind of have been flat. And, you look at something like the Honda Accord, again, sorry, talking about cars, but if you look at the Honda Accord versus the TLX, it's like, why would you buy the TLX for $10,000 more when the Accord is really great?
Yeah, I think they have that problem. I think Ford and Lincoln have the same problem. I think there's definitely, Toyota and Lexus do a much better job of that. They really separate the designs out, separate their vehicles out. But you're right. I definitely think that Acura could do something that would wow the audience, would really get some attention.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that is, in terms of SUVs, that's going to be the big news at Detroit, is what Acura does with the RDX and technology. Yeah.
And it's a great show. If you haven't been to auto shows lately, I would encourage you to go, because it's not just you walk around, open doors, and slam doors, right? I mean, there's interactive displays. There's usually, I bet you Jeep will have their driving experience there, like they normally do. Ford often has a virtual reality thing you sit in and you drive. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff, and the show is really a buzz. I mean, it's really a big show of the year.
Yeah, no, I mean, and the space is relatively contained. Like, I know in New York, you have to go from one hall to another hall, and, same with LA, everything is really super spread out and, difficult to get to. But, Detroit and Chicago are the two shows that are relatively contained in terms of where the displays are. And they do a lot of consumer focused things. Like you'd mentioned, like the 3D interactive displays. There's a new trend has been like VR, where they'll put you in the goggles and you can sit in the car and you can like look around and see like how things work. The Ford one year, they've done displays where they put you in weighted suits and have you like walk, and it's supposed to.
The drunk driver suit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
drunk
Yeah.
drivers. And it's supposed to emulate what you would do if you had been drinking or under the influence. And I have some very funny video of me doing that one year. And, I'm like in high heels, wearing like 10-pound weights, on various parts of my body. And the poor guy is like walking beside me to make sure I don't fall over and teeter off my heels. And I'm just like, man, if this is what I look like when I've been drinking, this is not pretty.
So it is. It's a good time. Please have a good time. Please be responsible and don't go too crazy. I know you have a little wild side, so.
Well, yeah, because I have to be up at 3 a.m. I mean, just stay up all the time, right?
Right? Don't go to bed. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah,
All right.
that sleep journalist who's in bed at like 9 a.m. while everybody else is out, or 9 p.m. while everybody else is out, like hooping it up, and I'll be like, yeah, sorry, I gotta go. Gotta go to bed. But no, we're actually driving up today. So,
yes.
because you expect this stuff to start like Sunday evening. So I got a hotel for Sunday, and then Chevrolet surprises with the Saturday thing. And I'm like, well, if I go up a couple, and I have friends who live up in Detroit. So I'm like, okay, we'll go up a couple days early, stay with friends. Then I can hit the Chevrolet thing. And then if anything goes early on Friday, I'll be there for that. But, next year, I'm just going to have to get my hotel on Saturday, assuming that somebody's going to do something Saturday. So
yeah, it's such a gamble. There's a lot going on, and they keep moving it. It's like going to be a week. At some point, it's going to be like a full five-day week. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Well, and the tough thing is, like, if you want to stay downtown Detroit right now, there aren't a lot of hotels.
Mm-mm.
Like, they're really revitalizing and rebuilding downtown Detroit. The restaurants are great. The venues are really cool, and things are walkable. I don't feel completely creeped out when I'm walking down the street at midnight. But, the hotels are minimal. And so if you want to stay downtown within walking distance of Kobo, you actually have to book your hotel room in like June.
I was at the show a couple years ago, and people on that Tuesday were booking their rooms for the following year. I mean, that's how competitive that gets. So, you just sleeping bag, you'll be fine. You blend all in.
It's too cold.
All right. There you go. There's the final word. That's going to do it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the popcorn and didn't throw it at the screen. Make sure you follow us on Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk on Facebook, Pickup Truck Plus on Twitter, Instagram. We're out there. PickupTruckTalk.com is the website. Jill is on Twitter. I will put her Twitter hashtag will be a little bit name. You'll see it. You can click on that and follow along and subscribe. Let us know. I'm always open to suggestions. I do read every email. Maybe at night when I have a drink sometimes, but I do read them all. I read every single one.
So this will be the video at the end of the year. Have you seen what is it, Automobile or some of those magazines? They do the mean tweets videos. Right. Like a mean email.
Right. Yeah. We will definitely have that. So, and we'll see you down the road. Darlene.
It's too cold.
All right. There you go. There's the final word. That's going to do it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the popcorn and didn't throw it at the screen. Make sure you follow us on Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk on Facebook, Pickup Truck Plus on Twitter, Instagram. We're out there. PickupTruckTalk.com is the website. Jill is on Twitter. I will put her Twitter hashtag will be a little bit name. You'll see it. You can click on that and follow along and subscribe. Let us know. I'm always open to suggestions. I do read every email. Maybe at night when I have a drink sometimes, but I do read them all. I read every single one. So this will be the video at the end of the year. Have you seen what is it, Automobile or some of those magazines? They do the mean tweets videos. Right. Like a mean email. Right. Yeah. We will definitely have that. So, and we'll see you down the road.